We are at the dawn of a new age, the age of Aquarius.
For the past 20 or 30 years, there's been a big boom in meditation of all varieties in the West.
There's no limitation in space when you go into thought consciousness. So that's where the meditative state is so key.
This year, more than 8,000 gathered to salute the sun.
The sun is very, very much more than it appears to be. It is actually a generator of energy, knowledge, information.
When you transcend, you go beyond thought. You just experience pure consciousness.
Consciousness is all possibility. It is all potential.
Both people have experienced other dimensions and what have you, either in meditation or near-death experiences or just spontaneously. And it's sort of an awakening that happens in consciousness.
There's not going to be a second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ is you. It's all of us. It is the awakening of the Christ principle in humanity. With this information comes the potential for what is called apotheosis. Human becomes God. And they have a variety of practices, very distinct practices, which are engineered to awaken your psychic center.
And any human being with this technique can open the door to that unbounded, infinite, divine being, light of God.
That is the experience of consciousness. Universal intelligence, universal consciousness. That field of unity that underlies and connects us all.
The true law is unity, that all is love, all is one, all is light. It doesn't have to be, my God is the only God. My God is the only right God.
Hindu, Muslim, Christian, they're just words that humanity has invented to keep each other apart. There is one divinity and we all share it.
We can be all that is, has been, and ever will be. We don't have to be a Christian.
Now we must transform, become enlightened, so that we can access the next realm of consciousness necessary for evolution.
Your full potential of the beautiful human being is called enlightenment. And people can unfold their enlightenment.
This is right here in the Lucius Trust library located in London, directly next to the United Nations Center as well. I found this interesting. This is amazing. Inside of the library of Lucius Trust, a candid history of the Jesuits. Teachings on yoga. See multiple books here on yoga. Ani Yoga. Here's another one. Yogi Philosophy. The Gnostic Gospels. Of course, you have multiple books in here on astrology and telepathy and just various books on magic, and you have the Rosicrucian manual right here. All of these ideologies are in harmony with the Theosophical movement. They're all in harmony with spiritualism.
This generation of 2017, you are watching things transpire at an unbelievable pace. I marvel at how quickly things are happening and how quickly Bible prophecy is being fulfilled.
This is heavy-duty stuff. This is what we were warned about in the Bible.
Tragically, most people, the average individual, has no knowledge of the presence of these dark and sinister spiritual forces.
We're seeing these gods returning to the earth and bringing with them the wisdom of what they have been trying to help us with all along.
We are saving and will be saving ourselves with the help and the inspiration and guidance of our elder brothers, the Masters of Wisdom.
These are the masters as foretold by H.P. Blavatsky through the Theosophical Society and her writings. The masters in the hierarchy you are now saying are present in some numbers in the world.
On our planet, the masters have been esoteric, hidden away for thousands and thousands of years, and they're now beginning to come back into the everyday world.
Here's the way they look at it. Here's their metaphor. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God until Lucifer set man free from this garden by giving him the gift of intellect.
Lucifer, Satan, their devil, he is our Savior. He is the one that saved humankind and allowed us to come into our power and freed us from slavery that the God, Jehovah, Yahweh, Yeshua, whoever you worship, whatever name you want to call him by, the slavery that he was trying to subject us all to, Lucifer freed us from that. So he is the real Savior of mankind. Lucifer is the real Messiah.
Who brought man the gift of fire? Prometheus. Who was Prometheus? Lucifer. What was the gift of fire? Knowledge, intellect. Through the use of intellect, man will conquer the earth, will conquer nature, and will himself become God. It's taught in every Masonic temple in this land. Every secret brotherhood, every secret society, every mystical temple, every occult organization teaches the Luciferian philosophy.
Did you just say that you are Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay, define Lucifer for me.
Pure, virtuous, wholesome, innocent individual that's out to help people.
Lucifer is?
Yeah.
Now, is he the Lucifer that God created?
That's the same one.
See, this is what a Mason confesses, is that Lucifer is light.
This is what they teach in the lodges, that if you perfect yourself as the temple of the God within and become Christed, You've all heard this in the New Age movement. You too can become God.
Lucifer, Satan, is currently trying to organize a massive movement that we are all capable of being our own gods and goddesses in our own right.
I think that something is happening that is coming up from the bottom of things. This is an international, it is not centered in any one particular part of the world. It is not centered in one particular ethnicity or anything else. It is coming up from the bottom of humanity. And I think that there is more of an awakening.
We are also granted the gift of experiencing an expansion within our own consciousness.
Consciousness itself is God. Individualism is a material, sensorial, biological notion which we can conquer through the expansion of consciousness. We have an obligation for the evolution of our species.
Most people see themselves as separate from the world, from the universe. But that is actually an illusion. What's evolving is consciousness. Consciousness is the thing that's evolving and creates, and it expands in every way it can, and that's where we're heading.
I love what you said about the evolution of the next consciousness, that we're just here to push up.
It's not just I think, therefore I am. It's I am, therefore I am. I am all that is, has been, and ever will be. I just am. I am the force with no name and all names. I am all things and I'm no things. I'm everything and nothing. I'm everywhere and nowhere. Because I am all that is, therefore I'm all possibility.
We all rejoice as one when any of you find your center and more of what our desire to see mankind do, to be enlightened within themselves.
Your consciousness at the very depth of yourself is all the wisdom, all the inspiration, and all of the love that you would ever need or want.
The voice of God inside of you. That's the only word of God that matters.
Because we, all of us on this planet, have the way within us if we only access that.
If you can find that peace and that equanimity within yourself, then you will be the most compatible for this change that is coming. You can harness that potential in yourself, and I see a very, very positive future coming.
It's just about time for the unveiling.
What is the unveiling, John?
The genetic upgrade of the human being. It's time to rise.
The whole idea of the fall, that people are fallen. Who made that up? Maybe we're rising, maybe we're not fallen, but that just keeps everybody in their place believing they're fallen people, you know? And I think if we actually kind of pulled out from that thinking and saw, just really reframed who we are and reconceived who we are, like actually we're rising people, not fallen people.
This is what the so-called second coming actually is the awakening within each and every one of you of your own Christ consciousness, your own Buddha nature, your own Krishna spirit, your own holy Wavoka.
You have power. Exercise it.
There's no messianic return. It's a consciousness awakening that's happening in each person. This is a future that we create.
So religion's out. If we are going to be conscious, then religion's gone. Because we are amazing, infinite, eternal genius.
We'd all love to be gods, wouldn't we?
People can unfold their enlightenment.
It is the awakening of the Christ principle in humanity.
This is all about enlightenment, a movement of illumination.
have to tell you this, and you may think I'm nuts if you want to, but this is the truth. Either these men are following the book of Revelation, just like a plan, and bringing the prophecies in there to pass, or there really is a God, and what he said was going to come to pass is coming to pass.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Okay, now my readings have told me, for what it's worth, that some of us will be able to have ascended abilities, because what we're expecting after 2012 is a 100 times more harmonious utopian world where things like time travel, levitation, instant telepathy, instant healing, telekinesis are as common and as everyday as breathing.
Is there a vibrational change? There is. And we're seeing it, and people are feeling it and changing as a result of it.
There's so much energy that we're basically going through. There's so much transformation. There's so much momentum about how we're all shifting our consciousness together that everything of that nature can change very, very dramatically.
We're moving into this new age of Aquarius, and this information is coming out, and it's going to be an awakening for everyone again. And, you know, with every change comes great trials and tribulations and chaos, and we certainly are seeing that in our world right now in so many ways. And if you really trust your intuition and look in, you'll see that in the midst of this change there is great good coming.
You are feeling the age of Aquarius coming into light. You are feeling these portals that are starting to open. You are feeling these energy shifts, and you are feeling them inside of yourself.
There is only one way to achieve justice in the world: to see the world as one, brothers and sisters of one humanity.
Millions of people believe that on December 21st, 2012, a new astrological age began that would see a sharp rise in human consciousness and spiritual awareness, and during which a peaceful global utopia would finally begin to come to fruition. This is the enlightened society that philosophers and spiritual thinkers the world over have been longing after for centuries. Over the past 100 years, the spiritual movement has gained global influence in raising interest in awareness of this new age, and has been very successful in bringing together the various spiritual and religious traditions of the world under one common banner, known as the New Age movement. In his book, The New Age Movement and the Biblical Worldview, author John Newport concisely describes the essence of the New Age movement. A person's initial impression of the New Age movement, he writes, is of an eclectic hodgepodge of beliefs, practices, and ways of life. The mysticism of Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Taoism enters the picture. So do elements from pagan teachings, including Celtic, Druidic, Mayan, and Native American, and an exceedingly wide range of practices: Zen meditations, Wiccan rituals, enlightenment seminars, management training, wilderness events, spiritual therapies, and forms of positive thinking also fall under the New Age rubric. However, we find that underneath all of this variety is a remarkable constancy, again and again, turning from practice to practice, from publication to publication. Indeed, from country to country, one encounters the same or very similar ideas about the world and the people of the world, the problems and the solutions. As spirit guides speaking through well-known New Ager Shirley MacLaine have put it, if everyone was taught one basic spiritual law, your world would be a happier, healthier place. And that law is this: everyone is God. Everyone.
The new age is the age of Aquarius. If you know your zodiac, the new world is going to take effect inside of the new age. And the whole idea of the new age, and it's working perfectly for the Aquarian age, is a deception that's coming. And the deception is self-worship and self-enlightenment. This godlike state that I'm talking about, they called it through these ages. They had many different names for it. The Japanese call it Zen. It was called Nirvana. It's called God consciousness. It's called Gnosis. And this spiritual enlightenment, you're going to see it come. It's already mainstream in America. It's going to become everywhere. It's going to be just like the Green Movement. they're going to lead you down this path of deception that you can become like a god. Now, where did this all originate from? It originated in the Garden of Eden with the tree of knowledge, the apple. You know, Lucifer said, if you eat of this apple, you will have knowledge between good and evil, and you will become like God. And that's the goal. They want people to think that they can become like a god.
The book of Genesis gives us a clear origin for this belief in human divinity, unfortunately dismissed as a fairy tale by much of the world today, including many Christians. The Genesis account of the creation and fall of man not only gives us a clear explanation of why the world and mankind have been continuously plagued by chaos, death, and destruction throughout the centuries, but it also provides a clear picture of where the world is headed and why many of those currently in power hold a Luciferian worldview and are tirelessly working to build a one-world society. Even if you dismiss the book of Genesis as nothing but a fairy tale, the truth of the matter is that many of the people working to forge a new world order hold to a spiritual worldview that takes the Genesis account very seriously. The only difference is they interpret it from the other side.
This permeates all of the teachings of all of these people, and it is, in fact, the Luciferian philosophy, is the promise of Lucifer to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, that God had lied to them, and if they eat of the tree, of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, then they will not surely die, but shall become as gods. And this whole story is in the book of Genesis, and people read it and they just gloss over that part. They don't really understand it. They don't really realize what was happening there. And everybody knows about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, but they don't understand that the whole fall of man was in believing the promise that Satan made to Adam and Eve, that they shall become as God. And the real blasphemy is to stand and say, I am God, and mean it.
I am God.
I am God.
I am God.
I am God. I am God.
I am God.
I am God. I am God. I am God.
If we can just move our self-identity from I am this person in the body with this name to I am all consciousness, everything changes.
Ever since his fall from heaven, Satan has attempted to steer mankind away from God with the temptation that they themselves can achieve godhood. This is what he ultimately accomplished in the Garden of Eden. But it did not stop there. The Luciferian lie has been the common element or uniting thread that connects almost every other religious and spiritual tradition other than Christianity. For centuries, these various religious and spiritual traditions have remained separated by time, geography, and culture. But today, with the help of technology and improvements in communication, they are being brought together in further unity under the banner of the New Age movement, which has been incredibly successful in perpetuating the Luciferian lie to a wider audience that might not otherwise be interested in religious ideas. New Agers are anxiously awaiting the arrival of the next world teacher, who they call the Christ. According to them, this Christ is not the Jesus Christ of the New Testament Gospels, but a spiritually powerful man who will embody the Christ energy. In fact, those within the New Age movement have been quite open in expressing that this Christ who will return is not the Jesus Christ of the New Testament. Alice Bailey, who is credited as coining the term New Age, states in her book, The Reappearance of the Christ, quote, "If men look for the Christ who left his disciples centuries ago, they will fail to recognize the Christ who is in the process of returning. The Christ has no religious barriers in his consciousness. It matters not to him of what faith a man may call himself. It should not take a trained Bible scholar to see that this Christ of the New Age is the Antichrist, who the Bible teaches will be the literal incarnation of Satan or Lucifer. And as we get into further detail about the New Age movement and the coming kingdom of the Antichrist, you will learn how many of the leading figures of the New Age movement in fact honor Lucifer as mankind's intellectual and spiritual savior and look for guidance from an ascended being they call the Lord of the World, the very title that Jesus Christ and the Apostle Paul use in the New Testament in reference to Satan. The coming of a Luciferian Christ and the establishment of a global utopia coincides with the Apostle John's vision in the book of Revelation about the Antichrist rising to power in the last days during a time of great tribulation to bring a false sense of peace and security to the people of the earth and proclaim himself to be God. But the Antichrist cannot simply appear. A great deal of work must be done to prepare the way for his coming, and the human race must first be conditioned to receive him as their own. In fact, New Agers themselves insist that in order for the next world teacher to arrive, humanity must first unify as a global family and be initiated into the new age of Aquarius. Rooted in centuries of pagan and occult practices, the process of initiation is central to the New Age. Simply put, initiation is the process of the human passing through increasingly higher stages of evolutionary development as they tread the path towards spiritual perfection and attaining Christhood. Alice Bailey, in her book Initiation, Human and Solar, defines initiation as, quote, the process of undergoing an expansion of consciousness. This is the essence of the New Age movement.
We are also granted the gift of experiencing an expansion within our own consciousness.
You can conquer through the expansion of consciousness.
There's so much momentum about how we're all shifting our consciousness together.
It's a consciousness awakening that's happening in each person.
This New Age initiation is symbolically represented today in the rites, ceremonies, and degrees of Freemasonry, and the initiation of humanity is coming to fruition through the popularization of yoga and meditation, occult practices which are intended to awaken dormant powers lying within the self.
All of you, stay regular in your meditation, and you will unfold your full potential, and you will become a force for peace in the world.
We have to move to another level of consciousness, and then this world can change. That's why you go into deep states of meditation. There's silence.
The real power is for you to get up in the morning and you meditate and you prayed and just Spirit directs you where to go and what to do, and Spirit will direct you. We need to move right into the quantum realm where assignments are given through inner guidance.
The popularization of these practices is not merely a trend. The initiation into the New Age is happening in a real and official capacity in our world today. As you will learn more about later in this video, the Lucis Trust, founded by Alice Bailey, is working with the United Nations to expand their network of light workers around the world and spread the message of spiritual brotherhood and popularize the occult practices of invocation and meditation in order to awaken mankind to its divinity and hasten the return of the New Age Christ and his spiritual hierarchy of ascended beings.
There is a mainstreaming of the sort of Enlightenment impulse. It's kind of fun going through history and seeing how things that seem weird or New Age or fringe or whatever 2-3 decades later are being discussed at Harvard.
At this time of planetary transition, there's a lot of chaos and confusion, and the emerging light is revealing the rather dualistic nature of the human condition. But through these revelations, humanity is beginning to touch a vision of unity and oneness, and many are subconsciously aware of the inner worlds opening up and the dawn of a new spirituality. And the New Age movement, of course, has developed now with all its many facets, both good and bad. And at the heart of this movement is the idea of a new world based on love and sharing. And it's only when we've developed that ability to see whole that a planetary healing and a truer understanding of our destiny as a planetary light bearer can occur. And as light continues to descend on Earth, we see a rapidly growing interest in meditation and visualization techniques. And as more people start working in meditation and mindfulness and concentrated thinking on areas of human development, the world is steadily filling with light. We focus the consciousness as high as possible in the mind.
Okay, so how do we get access to that? Our genius, so to speak. The answer is in finding moments of presence and stillness. And what that means is basically stopping the thinking mind. To actually create an opening is finding that dimension within you of stillness, the state of Zen, maybe, to have access to the deeper part of who you really are requires thoughtless awareness. And this is something that even Einstein spoke about. Stillness in the body and in the mind.
That's what meditation traditionally is. Properly understood, it is a technique to pull the awareness from the outwardly directed senses powerfully within to experience deeper levels of mind, simpler, quieter, more unified levels of the thinking process, and then slipping beyond thought, that's where the transcendental comes in, beyond thought altogether to experience this universal unity at the basis of mind and matter.
So we can access neurologically in our own minds the unifying field of creativity from which all energy and matter has come, perhaps even the cosmos and universe itself. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
People worldwide have been practicing meditation all throughout history because it works. Neuroscience is proving how the practice of meditation literally changes the size and function of your brain. Woo! Meditation thickens your prefrontal cortex that governs higher level thinking, which increases your creativity, attention, memory, and decision-making ability. Your brain literally grows, which significantly increases your brain function. By practicing meditation, you can become fully empowered and reach your fullest potential, where the sky is the limit. I invite all of you to add a short meditation practice into your daily routine and experience the benefits for yourself. Come into contact with who you really are, which is infinitely wise and conscious, and infinitely loving and compassionate. Now I'm going to lead you through a short meditation.
These 10 and 11-year-olds are focusing on their breathing and learning to let go of any destructive thoughts.
Last year we decided to trial it across 3 classes in the school. We had such success with it, and it had an impact on behaviour, concentration, learning. So we decided that this year we were going to roll it out to every class, ranging from our nursery children to our year 6s, and they all do half an hour fortnightly.
My passion is to get this on the national curriculum because I've been working in schools now for over 10 years. We're creatures of habit, so we can take up a good habit like this, then we can change the way we behave.
And this method aims to teach children how to manage their own behaviour and problems instead of relying on others to do it for them.
How does it make you feel inside?
Happy.
You are actually connecting yourself to the creative impulse of the universe. It's vital. It's vital in your life. This is what's going to transform the world, and it's happening right now.
John, do you reckon if through meditation we can achieve access to a fuller state of consciousness, it may help us to bring about a global revolution where we've found a society based on spiritual principles rather than material and economic ones?
It's the only way. If we are all one at our core but don't see it, that bringing that unity from within to the surface of perception and understanding, that is a transformed world. That is a unified world. That is a peaceful world. And a side effect of what we're doing. So,
I see. So through this we can achieve awareness of the unity that exists between all of us, that we are unity. Distinction, nation, religion, creed, these are all illusions. We're building our lives around illusion. If we know something to be true, then we should build our culture, our societies, our faiths, our institutions around that truth, and unity will be an inevitable consequence of that. We'll build a utopia, a blissful utopia.
Humanity is indeed being further initiated into the New Age. Not only are the practices of yoga, meditation, channeling, and invocation becoming more commonplace and everyday, but across the political, religious, and cultural spectrums, people of great influence are calling for the unification of humanity, urging people to drop their religious and national identities and to come under the banner of universal brotherhood and spiritual interconnectedness. Alice Bailey, confirming that this unification of humanity is also part of the initiation into the New Age, stated, quote, "Each initiation marks the passing of the pupil in the hall of wisdom into a higher class, marks the clear shining forth of the inner fire in the transition from one point of polarization to another, entails the realization of an increasing unity with all that lives and the essential oneness of the self with all selves." According to New Agers, humanity is beginning to unify because we are now in the age of Aquarius. The belief is that as we move further into the astrological age of Aquarius, universal and cosmic energies are being activated and released, and that humanity, as being one with the universe, will begin to feel these energies too. These energies will fuel the physical and spiritual evolution of humanity as it becomes more and more aware of its innate divinity and of its potential to reach newer, more godlike levels of consciousness. This realization of human divinity will be the main motivation for the people of the world to unify in the name of cosmic brotherhood, as humanity finally recognizes its true place within a cosmos bustling with other biological and spiritual life who wish to share in mankind's spiritual awakening. And once the majority of mankind has embraced their own inner godhood and rejected the dogmatic, closed-minded teachings of the Bible, the Aquarian Christ will return with a new revelation and help move humanity forward as a united and spiritually awakened family toward a new, brighter, and more enlightened future.
The energies of Aquarius, mounting in potency, will draw humanity together and make possible that sense of oneness, of being part of the whole. Each one of us will see, and Maitreya, you will find, will implement this idea, make it powerful in our consciousness that humanity is one, that we are brothers and sisters of that one humanity.
So many things are resurfacing, we are moving away from this separation consciousness and moving into unity, oneness consciousness.
The solar flares, the vibrational frequency is actually awakening all of us, and we're awakening as one.
We need to come together in mutual acknowledgement that we're all the same consciousness having different experiences. The change consciousness is about oneness, unity of everything.
There is the beginning of a glimmer of a new light. And these energies of Aquarius galvanizing humanity into experiencing itself in this new way, not as separate, but as something, as part of a group. A whole group. When humanity sees itself even as potential gods, it will learn to demonstrate cooperation, and justice will flourish, and therefore peace will flourish, and the end of war will become a reality.
I want to be very clear that I believe the New Age movement and all related spirituality and phenomenon are part of a global deception that will usher in a false age of peace and brotherhood, and that will inaugurate the biblical Antichrist, Satan in the flesh, as the next spiritual leader of mankind. Posing as the peaceful world teacher that all religious traditions have been awaiting, the Antichrist will lead the majority of humanity astray just before the return of the true Christ, who will then, in a final act of reconciliation, destroy the works of darkness and all those who have blasphemously believed that they themselves were God, and who were unwilling to acknowledge their own sinfulness and recognize the true significance of Jesus Christ's sacrifice on the cross. These messages of human divinity, oneness, and global brotherhood are being communicated in ever greater numbers by demonic spirits posing as benevolent angels, ascended masters, and extraterrestrials. If Satan truly is a fallen angel who was hurled down from heaven because of his pride, and who has ever since waged a war against God and mankind, it would be a perfect tactic for this fallen angel to spread his own propaganda, to teach mankind that he was mistreated by God and has been falsely slandered by Christians, and that in the Garden of Eden he was only trying to help or awaken mankind to the godhood that could be his. This is exactly the type of Luciferian propaganda we see consistently throughout this developing one-world spirituality, which proclaims that man is truly divine, and which is insisting upon the development of his higher consciousness and urging all of humanity to let go of their national and religious identities and come under the banner of common brotherhood. In light of what the serpent told Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and what the book of Revelation prophesies about a coming world order ruled by the Antichrist, the satanic undertones of these ideas should be quite obvious.
The age that we are leaving at this point in time is the age of Pisces. And according to the mystery religion, we are entering into the age of Aquarius very soon in our future. And to them this has great meaning, for it means the dawn of the new age, the age of the illumined man. The number of the man is 666 in the mystery religion.
Because the soul and spirit within you, yeah, the spark of the divine that is you, dear friends, yeah, has called you forth to be the fullness, the wholeness, and the glorious expression of your true human spiritual self in this lifetime. And again, thanks so much for your feedback, including the people that tell me I'm going to hell or I'm working for Satan. That always puts a smile on my face.
The New Age came right at everybody in 1980 with a book called The Aquarian Conspiracy. The Aquarian Conspiracy basically said, we're here and we're going to make this happen. It's going to take a little while, but we're going to do it. And here's what the author said. Usually at the point of crisis, someone has a great heretical idea. A powerful new insight explains the apparent contradictions. It introduces a new principle, a new perspective. Given the superior scope of the new idea, we might expect it to prevail rather quickly, but that almost never happens. The problem is that you can't embrace the new paradigm unless you let go of the old. If these discoveries of transformation are to become our common heritage for the first time in history, they must be widely communicated. They must become our new consensus, what everybody knows. In the book of Matthew, when it says, while men slept, the enemy came and sowed tares. That's what's kind of happened. A lot of people think that the New Age was something that happened back with Shirley MacLaine. That is exactly what the devil wants you to think of the New Age. It's just Shirley MacLaine running down the beach with crystals or whatever, saying, I am God. And there were a lot of introductions that were made in the 80s, but it's never stopped. It's just become bigger and bigger. But they are no longer referring to themselves as the New Age. They're now referring to themselves as the new spirituality.
And many are subconsciously aware of the inner worlds opening up and the dawn of a new spirituality.
But the reason spirituality matters is because spirituality gives you a context for rejoicing in the infinite possibilities. In my own career, people used to come hear me say things they didn't already know. Those days are over. We've all read the same books. We've all listened to the same tapes. The very fact that you're where you are, by definition, this isn't that you're coming to something like this to hear something new. We are rather coming to nights like tonight to access more deeply the things which by now all of us already know.
I remember when I first came into the faith, a friend of mine, Will Barron, who had come out of the New Age, said that in England, where he was from, all this stuff was rampant. But at that stage, back in the mid-'80s, it was just sort of working its way in through people like Shirley MacLaine and M. Scott Peck, and then eventually the huge force of Oprah Winfrey. But we're now there. We're where things are just exploding all around us, and there's so many things happening that sometimes it's hard to keep track of it. When I was in the New Age, I went to an Edgar Cayce conference. We used to do our daily meditation, and it would start off with Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. A lot of people think that the New Age is like all these different things. Well, there's a bottom line. And the bottom line is that we are all one because we are all God, because we are all Christ. God is in everyone. I told my wife, I said, these guys are all saying the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're meditating, doing TM in India, or whether you're, watching Oprah. You've got the same bottom line philosophy. M. Scott Peck in that book said, to put it plainly, our unconscious is God, God within us. We were part of God all the time. You've got Shirley MacLaine, and then you've got Oprah Winfrey in 1987 on a show with Marilyn Ferguson, who wrote The Aquarian Conspiracy. She said, what I would recommend is that you read Eric Butterworth's book, Discover the Power Within You. Butterworth talks about the divinity of man over 100 times in that book.
And when I was through with the good books in the store, and they had lots of good books, I found another line of books. And the books were by Baptists, Catholics, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Mennonites. And the books all sounded far more like each other than they did the respective teachings of their respective denominations. We need a transformation. We need to see ourselves as part of an interconnected whole. And I wondered, where were they getting this? I thought for the very first time in my life that maybe I should write a book. And I was going to call it, my original thought was, call it Come Out of Her, My People, the growing apostasy of American religious life. I had no idea I was looking at something far, far bigger.
New Agers consistently claim that they don't adhere to any one set of spiritual or religious beliefs. One website defines the New Age as, quote, a free-flowing, decentralized spiritual movement. Unlike most formal religions, it has no holy text, central organization, formal membership, ordained clergy, geographic center, dogma, creed, etc. This is, however, part of the propaganda, for there are far more differences between the many denominations of Christianity than there are among the New Age books and authors which define the parameters of the movement. And even though there's not an officially recognized New Age holy book, like the Bible within Christianity or the Quran within Islam, the New Age movement indeed has very specific spiritual beliefs and authoritative texts. Even the website cannot help but refer to the New Age as, quote, a network of believers and practitioners, the word network implying association, common interest, and common goals. And the site also notes how the New Age movement has brilliantly disguised itself. Quote, their book publishers take the place of a central organization. Seminars, conventions, books, and informal groups replace sermons and religious services. When we carefully listen to what New Agers have to say regarding spirituality and religion, we can hear them consistently preach the exact same basic ideas, often using similar or identical phrases and concepts. For example, New Age gurus and authors consistently encourage meditation, yoga, and searching within, and often speak of inner peace, balance, global brotherhood, and the spiritual path, human consciousness, and the ability to elevate it through collective action and personal meditative practice is also a consistent theme. Indeed, the New Age movement has very specific ideas and central tenets about God, humans, and the world, and for those familiar with its terminology, it is a very easy movement to define and identify. This is because the New Age movement is not new, but is rather a modern-day rebirth of a very specific set of ancient occult teachings. Still, New Agers try to paint their movement as being simply an amalgamation of various aspects from all the world's religions. The truth, however, is that the New Age always rejects the central beliefs of biblical Christianity, especially the notions of original sin and exclusive salvation through Jesus Christ. If the New Age movement truly recognized all religions as legitimate paths to God, as it claims to do, then it would honor biblical Christianity as another spiritual path. But as you will see, many New Age leaders devote much time to deliberately speaking out against the Bible and its presentation of Jesus Christ as the only begotten Son of God and the only legitimate path to heaven. The New Age pushes an entirely different kind of Jesus.
Oprah Winfrey, this year, I don't know what the significance was, but she started teaching the Course in Miracles with Marianne Williamson. The Course in Miracles is teaching supposedly from Jesus, channeled through a psychologist in New York City. I was involved in it. I believed it. I did it. And that Jesus it's like the Bible upside down.
My guest today is Marianne Williamson. Many of you know who she is because thousands of people every week, poor people and rich people and lots of celebrities, go to hear Marianne Williamson speak in Los Angeles and also in New York City. And what she talks about is based on a set of books. Many of you have heard about them, called A Course in Miracles. Marianne has become a teacher, a leader in the philosophy that I personally know could change the world.
He says the journey to the cross is the last useless journey. Do not make the pathetic error of clinging to the old rugged cross. Am I the Christ? Oh yeah, and you are too. There's no sin, there's no devil, and basically the atonement is knowing that you don't need salvation because you never sinned.
Atonement is an internal, going to God with our sins. We don't call them sins in a more enlightened perspective, but our mistakes. But it was the consciousness of Moses. It was the consciousness of Buddha. It was the consciousness of Jesus. So what happens is that Buddha and Jesus and Moses and any of the great religious figures, they are doors. There's only one door, and they're all names on the door. That you go through, and then you are taken to that place.
Now, that's not Shirley MacLaine running down the beach with crystals. This is heavy-duty stuff. This is what we were warned about in the Bible.
She quoted from a book called The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. And this was about Jesus, obviously the jet setter. He wasn't hanging around Palestine. He was traveling to India and China. And the Aquarian masters sitting in council had told us that Jesus was not always the Christ, that just as Jesus had earned the degree Christ by a life of strenuous service and equipping himself to find the Christ consciousness, just as Lincoln was not always president, Edward was not always king, neither was Jesus always the Christ. He had earned the degree Christ by these certain practices. And they had John the Baptist was also out seeking wisdom, and he also had pagan masters. This is what the quote Christian books were also talking about. I've since collected some. One was SPCK, Society for the Propagation of Christian Knowledge. It was from England, and they actually told us we should pay heed to Benjamin Creme and Alice Bailey and Helena Petrovna Blavatsky.
Helena Blavatsky and Alice Bailey are the de facto founders of the New Age movement, and their writings are still among the most authoritative and commonly cited texts among New Agers. Blavatsky co-founded the Theosophical Society in New York City in September of 1875. Though it is rarely acknowledged, Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society have had a profound influence on not just the spirituality of the West, but its social and political culture in general. Author Gary Lachman notes some of the prominent figures that have been influenced by Blavatsky. Quote, "For the poet W.B. Yeats, who knew her in her last days in London, she was like an Irish peasant woman, and for the novelist Kurt Vonnegut, writing in McCall's magazine in 1970, she was the founding mother of the occult in America. The poet T.S. Eliot, the artist Wassily Kandinsky, the inventor Thomas Edison, the creator of Oz, L. Frank Baum, and Mohandas Gandhi were only some of the people who over the years sat, figuratively or otherwise, at the incomparable Madam's feet." Theosophical historian K. Paul Johnson also speaks to this. Quote, "A remarkable feature of Theosophy's history is the disparity between its minuscule membership and its vast and varied cultural influence. Blavatsky's ideas inspired leading figures in the development of modern art. Political activism in colonial India and Ceylon owed an immense debt to theosophical influence. In the West, many social movements, such as educational reform, women's suffrage, and abolition of capital punishment, were advanced by the efforts of early theosophists. The Society's utopian aims have been very clear from its inception, as one of its stated objectives is, quote, to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. Blavatsky insisted that, quote, this society was organized on this one principle, the essential brotherhood of man, and that a true theosophist, quote, must strive to realize his unity with the whole of humanity.
Bringing that unity from within to the surface of perception and understanding, that is a transformed world. That is a unified world.
We are unity. Distinction, nation, religion, creed, these are all illusions. We're building our lives around illusion. We'll build a utopia, a blissful utopia.
This universal brotherhood of man would be predicated on the occult principle that despite appearing different in their outward forms, all religions taught the same basic spiritual laws, a fact known and practiced in ancient times by a select group of initiates who guarded this knowledge. What we desire to prove, stated Blavatsky, is that underlying every ancient popular religion was the same ancient wisdom doctrine, one and identical, professed and practiced by the initiates of every country, who alone were aware of its existence and importance. The proofs of this identity of fundamental doctrine in the old religions are found in the prevalence of a system of initiation. To bring to light this ancient wisdom doctrine at the basis of all the world's religions was the main goal of Blavatsky's most notable works, The Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled, which are grand accumulations of occult and esoteric teaching from all over the world. The main inspiration for Blavatsky's work came from beyond the physical world. Through a process called channeling, Blavatsky came into spiritual contact with ascended beings who communicated to her thousands of pages of occult knowledge regarding the spiritual history of mankind and its evolutionary development. In a letter to a friend named Vera, Blavatsky described her channeling experiences. Quote, "Well, Vera, believe it or not, some enchantment is upon me. I am writing Isis Unveiled. Not writing, rather copying out and drawing that which she personally is showing me. Really, it seems to me as if the ancient goddess of beauty, in person, leads me through all the lands of bygone centuries which I have to describe. Slowly, century after century, image after image, float out of nowhere and pass before me as if in a magic panorama. Races and nations, countries and cities, long vanish in the darkness of the prehistoric past, emerge and disappear, giving place to others, and then I am told the consecutive dates." Blavatsky and her followers have insisted that what is contained in her writings is not new knowledge, but merely a modern-day expression of age-old teachings that were once universally known and practiced, but have largely been forgotten and dismissed since ancient times. Blavatsky believed her work to be the rebirth of that body of ancient esoteric teachings collectively known as the Ageless Wisdom, Ancient Mysteries, or Mystery School teachings. The wisdom religion was one in antiquity, and the sameness of primitive religious philosophy is proven to us by the identical doctrines taught to the initiates during the mysteries, an institution once universally diffused. Blavatsky insisted it was now time for this ancient wisdom religion to emerge once again and serve as the precondition for the unification of all the religions of the world and the global brotherhood of man. If properly put into practice, the ageless wisdom would bring about a golden age of global peace and prosperity unprecedented in human history.
Madame Blavatsky, as she's called, or sometimes referred to as HPB, her initials, was a real pioneer in the bringing of what's called the ageless wisdom to the West. The ageless wisdom is a term for the spiritual teaching that for most of human history was hidden or veiled, but it's like a golden thread that runs throughout the world religions and mythologies and has always been present in human consciousness in some form or another appropriate for the time.
It has always been for me about a practical application of the ageless wisdom teaching. These divine aspects of human nature are the very key to creating a culture of peace on earth, aware of our living inner and outer interconnectedness as never before.
We are, of course, the one human family, the one humanity. And we're working with energies of such beauty to take evolution forward to its next step.
The biggest hurdle to this goal of the global brotherhood of man was, of course, Christianity, which Blavatsky and Bailey believed had stubbornly clung to the erroneous notions of original sin and exclusive salvation through Jesus Christ. Such teachings, they believed, promoted disunity and hatred. They had no place in a world of peace and were irreconcilable with the ageless wisdom. Esoteric philosophy reconciles all religions, strips every one of its outward human garments, and shows the root of each to be incidental with that of every other great religion. It proves the necessity of an absolute divine principle in nature. It only refuses to accept any of the gods of the so-called monotheistic religions. Gods created by man in his own image and likeness, a blasphemous and sorry caricature of the ever unknowable. Blavatsky called Christianity the chief opponent of free thought. She wrote in The Secret Doctrine, "The secret doctrine must someday become the just karma of the churches, more anti-Christian than the representative assemblies of the most confirmed materialists and atheists." She also insisted, quote, "Theological Christianity must die out, never to resurrect again in its present form. This in itself would be the happiest solution of all." Indian theosophist B.P. Wadia made clear Blavatsky's hatred for the Christian conception of a personal God and creator, and outlined what the theosophical student must do to combat this evil and divisive doctrine. Everywhere in the genuine theosophical books, with great and reiterated emphasis, the delusion of the personal God notion has been attacked. In the 2 volumes of her Secret Doctrine, HPB has exposed the fallacy. They pray to an extra-cosmic and personal God, higher than whom no exoteric worship can ever soar, making the task of the theosophical student most difficult. That task is to preach and promulgate the view that belief in such a God perverts human morals and deadens the action of the mind. To propagate this truth, the student himself has to master it. Unless he meditates on the attacks made in the Secret Doctrine on the personal God notion, he will not be able to get rid of this deeply ingrained acquisition, for it is an acquired and not an innate idea. The United Lodge of Theosophists similarly states, "Theosophy has no qualm or hesitation about saying that belief in any type of personal or anthropomorphic God and the resultant worship, prayers, and devotion offered to such a being is something damaging, dangerous, and destructive. It is based on ignorance, immaturity, and superstition, and poses perhaps the main barrier and hindrance to the individual and collective spiritual liberation and progress of mankind." Theosophists insist that once the biblical notion of a personal God has been purged from the earth and the ancient mystery teachings exalted to their rightful place, true global peace and brotherhood can finally be established. Indeed, Blavatsky looked forward to the day when traditional Christianity was a thing of the past. If both church and priest could but pass out of the sight of the world as easily as their names do now from the eye of our reader, it would be a happy day for humanity. Universal unity and causation, human solidarity, the law of karma, reincarnation, Blavatsky stated, summarizing the main tenets of the ageless wisdom. These are the 4 links of the golden chain which should bind humanity into one family, one universal brotherhood. Alice Bailey, a devoted disciple of and successor to Blavatsky, also believed that the restoration of the mysteries or the ageless wisdom teachings would bring about a golden age of global peace and unity. These mysteries, when restored, she claimed, will unify all faiths. In 1922, Bailey solidified the influence of the Theosophical Society in America and the rest of the world by founding the Lucis Trust, a non-profit organization which has consultative status with the United Nations. Originally named Lucifer Publishing Company, the trust has been used as a means of publishing and disseminating Bailey's 20-plus volumes on the ageless wisdom. Bailey also founded the Arcane School, an offshoot organization of Lucis Trust, as an education center aimed at, quote, training in New Age discipleship. As I will discuss more throughout this video, both of these organizations are alive and well to this day, in consort with the United Nations, helping to advance mankind's initiation into the age of Aquarius.
Look at the case of Alice Bailey. Here was somebody who had no background in literature and writing books, yet was able to turn out 20 major books that are all still in print and are all still affecting people, that have become a ground and base for so much of the esoteric tradition in our time. Mrs. Bailey, as you know, started working in a theosophical center on the West Coast. She had a mission, she had a calling, this wonderful interconnectedness that she believed so passionately for.
Bailey popularized the idea of the New Age, and she specifically emphasized the coming changes that the age of Aquarius would bring about on the planet, most notably humanity's growing realization of its oneness. She stated in The Reappearance of the Christ, quote, "If the word initiation signifies the processes of entering into, then it is indeed true today that humanity is undergoing a true initiation as it enters into the new age of Aquarius. It will then be subject to those energies and forces which will break down the barriers of separation and which will blend and fuse the consciousness of all men into that unity which is distinctive of the Christ consciousness." Like Blavatsky, Bailey saw traditional biblical teachings as the main hindrance to the unification of the world, and she was confident that the New Age Christ was adamantly working to reverse the damage caused by centuries of Christian dogma. She stated in the externalization of the hierarchy, quote, "The Christian Church has laid so much emphasis on Christ's unique position as the one and only Son of God that great error has crept in and has been fostered for centuries. Christ himself foresaw the possibility of this error and tried to offset it by pointing out that we are all the sons of God, and that greater things than I do shall you do," a statement which no commentators have ever understood or adequately explained. The occult fact is that there is no being on earth, from the very lowest form of life to the very highest, which is not moving onward towards a greater and finer expression of divinity, and Christ himself is no exception to this universal evolutionary law. Denying that Christ's death on the cross literally happened or had any significance whatsoever, she stated, "It must be remembered that it is the teaching given by the Christ which saves humanity, not any symbolic death upon a cross. Men must save themselves by their reaction and their response to the teaching given in its purity by the Christ." She also denied the existence of hell, stating, quote, "There is, as you well know, no angry God, no hell, and no vicarious atonement. There is only a great principle of love animating the entire universe. This teaching about hell is a remainder of the sadistic turn which was given to the thinking of the Christian Church in the Middle Ages, and to the erroneous teaching to be found in the Old Testament about Jehovah, the tribal god of the Jews. Jehovah is not God. As these erroneous ideas die out, the concept of hell will fade from man's recollection, and its place will be taken by an understanding of the law, which makes each man work out his own salvation upon the physical plane, which leads him to right the wrongs which he may have perpetrated in his lives on earth, and which enables him eventually to clean his own slate. As we can see, these are the exact same views that are promoted in modern New Age texts like A Course in Miracles, suggesting that the author of A Course in Miracles, Helen Schucman, either copied Bailey's views or that perhaps both are from the same demonic source.
A Course in Miracles is teaching supposedly from Jesus, channeled through a psychologist in New York City, and that Jesus it's like the Bible upside down. He says the journey to the cross is the last useless journey. Do not make the pathetic error of clinging to the old rugged cross. Am I the Christ? Oh yeah, and you are too. There's no sin, there's no devil, and basically the atonement is knowing that you don't need salvation because you never sinned.
Like Blavatsky, Bailey claims to have received her teachings by way of channeling and worked in partnership with ascended beings, especially the ascended master known as Dejwa Kul, also called the Tibetan. Alice Bailey's husband, Foster Bailey, noted the spiritual source of his wife's teachings. Quote, "Modern esotericism is a new phenomenon in the Western world, pioneered by the Tibetan teacher Dejwa Kul, working with H.P. Blavatsky. Again, this time working with Alice Ann Bailey, the same master teacher has provided the interim teaching needed for conscious entry into the new Aquarian age."
And as the Tibetan has pointed out, the material given through Madame Blavatsky and Alice Bailey is not finished. There is still more to come.